Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Recruiters with No Limits. Always live and never scripted. I'm here with my sidekick and co-host, John Ruffini. Johnny, what's up, brother?
It's been a while, Richard. It's good to see you, my friend.
It's been a while since we took a little time off after Staffing World, man. We needed a whole month to recuperate, right?
We did. We're all worth it.
Man. Good times, buddy. And the holidays are coming soon, man. Did you get my Christmas gift yet?
No. Should I expect one?
I'm asking you to give me one. Come on, man.
No, I thought you said, did you get my Christmas? I thought you meant, like, did you get it like you sent something to me?
No. My lingo is I'm hoping you give me a gift. Come on now. I'm on the receiving end this year. All righty. So, hey, John, we got a special show today, man. It's a Friday. We never usually podcast on Friday, but we're ready to rock and roll here. So we got Cordelia and Victoria. We're going to be talking about DE&I today. Girls, what's up?
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. So let's just jump into Cordelia. We'll start with you. Just tell us a bit about where you're from and what company you work for.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally from the Twin Cities, so St. Paul, Minneapolis, but I have lived in Chicago for over 10 years now. So Chicago is home, and I work for a company called Medics. So we are a staffing and recruiting company nationwide, and I am our Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion and Employee Experience here, and just hit a year in the role, but I've been at the company for a little over 6 years now. So super excited to be here.
Nice. Well, welcome aboard. And Victoria Hill. We know her. Victoria, give us your speak.
Hey, how's everybody? So I am Victoria. As you know, I'm the Director of Diversity and Social Impact for a company called Advance Group. We're a global company, and we're staffing. We also do clinical research. We also have an RPO. So we do a few things well. And I've been in my role for the last year, like Cordelia, and I've been with our company about 6 years as well. So excited. And I'm here in Chicago. Woo!
Woo! So Bulls and Bears, right?
Yes.
Okay, I got to ask you real quick before we jump into it. White Sox or Cubs? Which one?
Ooh.
Wow, that causes fights in our town.
I was going to say that's like a very divisive question, Richard.
I tell you what. Okay, we're done with that. That was a bad question. Okay, so let's deep dive in. I mean, this is a serious subject. 2023 is coming up here. A couple of things I got to ask off the bat is, you know what are you guys both seeing out there? We all want to change. Companies want to change. But as we talked before, Victoria, and we'll jump in with you first, are you seeing companies actually changing, or is it taking longer than what you're thinking?
Yeah, I do see that over the last 2 years, companies have been changing. It's a journey. And so, I think that a lot of times we look and say, we want something to happen now. We want to see change now. And really in this journey, we'll see change along the way. So some companies are different. So some have created a lot of change, and some are just starting in this race or this journey. But I do see a lot of change, overall. Nice. And I think that DEI is not going away. So companies better come on board with what's happening here. But yes.
You mentioned it's a journey and that it's a gradual, we live in such an immediate gratification society where people want things yesterday.
Yes.
Is there any danger or risk to actually making that drastic change overnight versus going gradually? Do you have a preference? Have you seen successes, challenges? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say gradually is my preference because, like you said, instant gratitude is how we think, but sometimes it doesn't sustain, right? So I think gradual is a process where we can have that sustainable change. So I don't want something to start and then end, right?
That's a good point.
I want us to keep evolving.
Exactly.
You know, and if you do, some companies, maybe they did do something overnight. So I'm not, you know, downing that. But if you do, just make sure you keep going. Like, don't stop there and say, yay, we've made it. No, you
check that box. Let's move on.
It's that snowball effect. Keep it rolling.
Keep it rolling.
Totally.
Cordelia, what do you see out there on your end?
Yeah, I echo everything that Victoria said. I think, you know, we as DEI practitioners, we're always talking about how, you know, it's a journey. DEI is a continuum. It's not like we're going to land or feel like, okay, yep, we made it. We're done here, right? The work is never done. It's something that you actively, you know, as the DEI leader of, you know, an organization, of course, are running with, you know, holding people accountable and the initiatives and education and programming. But DEI includes every single person at a company, and people continue to evolve as well. So I really like thinking about it in terms of just the gradual growth. And we know that there is no silver bullet, right? We can make a statement, we can celebrate, you know, different heritage months and different observances and things like that. But I think when you're really thinking about the whole sort of topic or conversation of DEI as a business imperative, you know, I heard a quote recently that was, and I've been using it. So I don't know exactly who originally coined it. I don't want to claim it as my own, but, you know, DEI being the hot sauce that's sprinkled on every single part of the dish rather than a side dish. It's gotta be ingrained in every single thing that you do. And if it's not an imperative piece of the business and thinking about how it impacts our bottom line at every company, then it will fall to the wayside and it will feel like a silver bullet.
So it's got to be something that starts at the top. You've got to have that chief executive push and backing, I would imagine. Otherwise, your chances for success are minimized. Would you say that's accurate?
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
For sure.
So when you go into companies here, what's, like we talked about this before, Victoria. So how do you start with this? Because everybody wants to, you know, get the policy book out there, start this. Where does the groundwork start? And does it go, like, do you meet with them once a week, once a month? How do you get this being very proactive to get this rolling?
Yeah, I think that every company is different. Just like every person's different, every leader's different. In my opinion, I think we should look at our mission and vision of the organization first, or at least that's one of the top in your top 10. Like, look at it and decide, how does that align with DE&I? Once you figure that out, then you can start moving in different directions. The buy-in from leadership. So like John mentioned earlier, starting at the top, the CEO, the executive team, getting that buy-in and speaking their language. And their language usually includes bottom line, right? Profit, engagement, engagement of their staff, productivity, you know, attracting the best candidates. So speaking their language so that they can align it with DEI and then aligning that with the mission and vision and goals of the organization is a good first start, in my opinion.
I love that. So let's throw up the roadmap here, Victoria. You can give us what's going on here.
Yeah, take us through this journey.
Yeah, so this is the journey, and this is what I use in my organization, but everyone may have different pillars. So the pillars you see on there are like attract. We want to attract the best candidates, right? We want to make sure our staff is engaged. We want to retain the best staff. So that involves like training and awareness. And then we have to be able to measure, right? Look at data and then influence. And that influence is not only internal, but also external. And as you see on this roadmap, this journey, you can see like there's like some slow signs and there's speed humps and there's caution signs and yield, but you don't see any stop signs. So to Cordelia's point earlier, you don't stop. You have to keep growing and learning, and you may slow down, right? And you may hit a speed bump and, you know, along the way, and that happens. but you just keep going, and the roads may wind, and that's fine, but you just keep going along this journey.
Man, I love it. Hey, them roads, I ain't gonna lie, they look like the West Virginia roads here. But no, all joking aside on that, that, you know what? It's so true. This doesn't happen overnight. And you probably both agree. This is a work in progress that takes time, years to really develop that culture.
Yeah. It definitely
And something
does.
that, to your point, because it's a journey that continues, you need to have a plan that is dynamic, not static. It's a type of thing where, all right, well, let's have milestones, to your point, and let's say, all right, here's the goals we want to achieve, but let's keep building on beyond that. I'm curious, Cordelia, so you've been in your role for a year.
Yes.
Did you take over for someone? Was it a new role? And what were the biggest challenges moving into that role that you faced?
Yeah, so this is a new role. So I did not, take over for somebody. So it's a new role for me and for our organization. And so, when I think about the challenges of just that in and of itself, it's kind of the metaphor, if you will, of building a plane while it's flying in the air, right? You're figuring it out every single day. And I think that roadmap is a really good example. Like, having a year in the role now is this, like, I feel like I can take 1 minute to actually take a breath and actually look back on this past year and be like, wow, we did a lot. Like, there were definitely challenges and there were definitely misses or things that I had to kind of learn and grow through alongside all of my colleagues and, all the fellow leaders at our company. But now I think I'm even more motivated and excited because I have this like year sort of snapshot where I can look back and be like, whoa, look at all that we actually were able to accomplish in the first like full year of really having this be a massive priority, for someone to really be in this role as their like full-time gig. Right. So I think, to answer your question around challenges, you don't know what you don't know until you go through it. So that would be one piece. It's kind of trial and error, seeing how things are landing with the company. And then, I think at the end of the day, and Victoria and I actually have chatted about this several times, and just trying to support each other and brainstorm with each other and give each other different ideas. Like the measure piece, I think is a consistent challenge that, DEI practitioners do go through around, KPIs, metrics, like what is the measurable piece? How are we thinking about quantitative data versus qualitative data when really like the goal of the role is to ensure that every single person at your organization can show up and be their true authentic self every single day. It can be a little bit hard to measure. So, that's one thing that, we do a ton of surveys with our organization. We do a ton of, focus groups and conversations to really have a consistent idea of how people are feeling on a day-to-day basis.
I'll ask you, and I'll also ask Victoria to chime in as well on this. You mentioned the measurables. So on a production area, as a recruiter by trade, I could tell you what to measure to see if your recruiting operation is successful.
Yeah.
What are some of the KPIs that companies should be looking at when they're looking at measuring their progress toward DE&I?
Yeah, I mean, I think, first of all, I have a recruiting background as well. And so going back to your other question around challenges, I loved being able to be like, if I call this many candidates today, or if I like find this many people for that job, I can like not only know what's about to be in my pocket, maybe in a month or so, right? I'm controlling that, but also just like being able to see like the work I'm putting in is exactly. I loved that piece of recruiting. Yeah. It was all about the hard work that you put in. And it was so easy to be like, I know this, A plus B is going to equal C.
Yeah, there was a formula.
Yeah, a formula. Exactly. So, I think it goes back to Victoria's earlier point, like every single organization is structured very, very differently. And so no two organizations are going to have the exact same measurables or KPIs. And what I'm working towards right now is really thinking about what is our most underrepresented demographics or groups at our organization, and how can I set a goal around, number one, having certain amount of conversations to promote, to develop, retain these individuals at our organization, but also really having a benchmark around, okay, this is the data of where our company is at right now is one of the most important pieces. If you don't have that, you can't set those goals. You know what I mean? So, for our pillars, our goals and metrics are going to be tied to anything around internal recruiting, professional development, promotional opportunities, and then retention is where we kind of think about different measurables on our end.
So true. That retention part, I think with you guys going into every company, that's going to save them so much money, because it's going to bring people together. I mean, this DE&I thing is something to bring everybody together as a family. Totally. And you probably see that. Do you see the energy when you go in after a couple of times meeting with them that they're working together?
Absolutely. 100%. I think it's really easy. I'll just say one other piece on that. I think it's really easy when you hear DEI to automatically think about, we need to hire more diverse populations. Like, I think that's a very kind of more silver bullet type of response. But what I've learned over the course of this year and networking and partnering with a lot of different people who are much more advanced than I am at this stage in my career, my DEI journey myself, is really way more having the inclusion and retention and belonging piece be the first and most important priority. Because if you're not focused on what you currently got within your team makeup, there's no point in really trying to just force a completely new, group of people into your organization if you don't have that foundation built out there.
It's a great point.
I got to ask you guys, what kind of social activities do you do with the clients? I mean, do you have it like where they, bring different meals on Friday to see, each other and stuff like that? I mean, is there something that bonds them together that you guys do, like exercise wise?
Yeah. So for us, we've done different things with clients. Like, we've done trainings for our clients and our partners. So that helps to bring everyone together. Certainly LinkedIn is a great way of, bringing folks together, because in this world that we're in now, like, my company is 100% remote. So we're not getting out as much as we used to in the past with having, like you said, those Fridays and those type of events. But I think there's certainly a lot we can do, in this hybrid sort of world. But Zoom meetings, happy hours, LinkedIn, bringing different ideas out there so that everyone can see. So it's not just like small groups. We can share now with the world thanks to technology.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Victoria, I want to ask you, with respect, circling back to the whole KPI aspect, when you look at your roadmap and your journey, anything additional or different that you measure when you're working with a company?
Yeah, I 100% agree with everything Cordelia said. And we also look at, because there's data, so there's specific numbers. So like KPI, you can look at when you're recruiting, since, all of us have like a sort of recruiting background, when you're looking at how many people that are applying for jobs, and you look at that diverse makeup, and then you can look at from there, take that to the next level. Well, how many diverse people from that group are even making it to interviews? And then after that, looking at the next level, okay, well, how many from the interviews are now being hired? And like following that, journey or transition from initially when you're, have applicants to interviews to hire. And that really tells a story right there.
And you're looking for disparities and biases and all those trends?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you are, because if the number gets lower and lower and lower with a diverse population, then there's something there. There's a story, and it could be any story, right? And I don't want to, share all the stories, because it could be any story, but the story could fall with maybe, our job applications or how we're marketing. Maybe we need to change that up a little bit. Or maybe when we're interviewing, maybe we're not asking the same questions to everyone. Maybe there's a little bias in our interviews, or maybe, in our hiring process, maybe there's some bias there. So that data helps to start that story. And again, the stories could be, different based on the company, the leader, you know what I mean? So different areas. Also, what we measure is we look at exit interviews, right? So we threw some diversity questions in our exit interviews because people leave organizations, but we want to see, how they felt about our DEI efforts when they were there. Also, engagement surveys while people are still with the company, right? We can look at that data. If we're training, we can look at survey results from the trainings, like what impact is this really making within the organization, or do we need to change some things up? So there's various ways that we can measure our DEI efforts, but again, it's different from every company. So you can look at raw data. That's, you can look at data, but you also need to look at other things, survey, make sure, like Cordelia said, your staff is happy and they feel like they belong.
That's
and
right.
How do you find that out?
So this is a lot of work. What do companies do when they don't have a Cordelia or a Victoria dedicated to leading that charge? Where does this fall? Is this something that typically falls kind of in an HR area and it's part of what they do? I mean, that's got to be, how do you accomplish this without having a dedicated effort?
That's such a great question.
Go ahead and say it. They need you, right?
they need us. Well, both Cordelia and I have very similar experiences in that we both were in different roles before this with the same organization, but diversity was part of that, our other roles before we became the dedicated person. So yes, I was in HR and I did diversity alongside of HR. So, and that can work in the short term, but once your company grows, of course, the role has to grow because you want to be able to have dedicated time spent on this. You don't want it to be a side project. You want to spend 100% dedicated time on this to show that, the organization cares and this is part of their mission.
Exactly. And I love what you guys do. And you're going to love this story. 2 weeks ago, 20 openings, manufacturing, 15 women got hired, 5 guys.
Nice.
Right there. Is that great? I mean, it's changing so much now and I love it. It's like, but it's like you said, Victoria and Cordelia, it's in the interview process. You show everybody that love, they're going to show up. I mean, that's, you guys know what I do for a living. It's all about showing love for everybody, but no, that's what we need to have. There's no judgment at all.
Well, and it's got that's where, Richard, you bring up a great point. In the interview process, it's got to be set up so that you take all emotion out of it. It's very consistent and based on, to your point, Victoria and Cordelia, based on data. So we're going to treat everybody the same. We're going to put everybody through the same process, same line of questioning. It's none of this, well, I'm bringing in this person because I like them and they're my friend. So you've got to take the emotion out of it. So hard for companies to do. They don't want to do that. But if you can do that, you put pieces together a lot better, in my opinion, than if you don't have something like that. I'm not sure if you guys agree or disagree.
Completely agree.
Yes.
So true. So, okay. So here's a story I got now. So you got the person there, maybe you want to get up to the C level. How do you prepare them to get to the next level for leadership? Especially with diversity, we want to push them up the ladder there. How do we do that? Do you guys have some techniques that you talk to companies about?
One thing that, we have 5 ERGs here at Medix, so we call them impact groups. And so one thing, as we've thought about programming and what do we want to do with these impact groups, right? Like, we don't want it to just be this like plop of people that are meeting just to meet. And like, you know what I mean? Like, we want to actually have it be a real impact in maybe the way that you just mentioned. So the one thing that I would say is really leaning on, the people in that group to be able to identify like, what route do you want to take your career and what is holding you back, and being able to, just think about like, hey, if this person just mentioned to me that their ultimate goal is leadership, how am I being sort of that liaison between what they want and, the opportunity at the company, right? So if this person told me this is the type of leadership role that they want to get into, how am I kind of making these different connections for them to network, to identify new mentors, to have different education of where they're, being able to, you know, advocate for themselves, right? I think it's a very much, you know, two-way street of, you know, helping people feel like that confidence and being like, no, I want this job. I'm going to go get this job. Like, I believe that I deserve and have earned this job. And then I think on the flip side, it's the duty of the company to really be bought into having those conversations with people maybe they didn't anticipate going into a leadership role, you know, and hearing them out.
Nice. Now, do you guys do one-on-one coaching too with them? Some people that might just want to go up the ladder and they need somebody just to talk to one-on-one, or is it mostly in groups?
Both, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Both of our companies.
I imagine there are people that want to advance in the organization. They just don't know how. So they need that guidance. They need someone to kind of lay out that roadmap and say, all right, where do you want to be? In order to get there, here's a plan you can take that will get you there. And here's the formula. But then you've also got to make others aware in the organization that, hey, here's a person, this is where they want to head. And leadership has to be on board to help groom that person and do whatever they can to help them down that road. So it's definitely, you guys both said this, it's a team effort to make this succeed within an organization. It's not just having somebody like a Victoria or a Cordelia to say, oh, we've got our person, we're fine now. They're you know, that's under them. It's really, everybody's got to be involved.
Yeah, everybody does have to be involved. And I had a conversation just yesterday about this and how in days of old, how it used to be when we were in the office, the people who are building those relationships and talking to the higher ups are the ones who get recognized. But now we're in this hybrid world. Like, I work 100% remote. So I don't walk through the halls and I can't see everybody all the time. And so creating those opportunities for people, even in the Zoom world, to get in front of leadership, you know, get their names and their faces in front, because you've seen it.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, you see like the popular person that's, you know, speaking to everyone.
Visibility was always
talking
key.
all the time.
Yeah. And it's harder to do now in this hybrid and remote world. And so finding those ways to present candidates, you know, internal employees to the leadership team, so they know, oh, there's a Victoria or Cordelia out there, there's a John, there's a Richard, you know, making those opportunities available, that visibility, so that they can be recognized as well.
I'll just add on that really quick too. I think, you know, Victoria mentioned this earlier, but, you know, also being able to like share the stories of how people got to the roles that they are in today, right? Like, I think sometimes people can look at maybe what Victoria's role is or what my role is and be like, oh, how, like, I want that job, or how did that, you know, come to be? And there's way more sort of, everyone has a story of how they once got into leadership, and probably 90% of those stories at any company are, it wasn't always easy, right? It was a longer road than probably what it may look like on paper, you know? So having that awareness as well, I think is really helpful.
It's a great point.
Okay, so I got to ask you this. Does anybody come up to you and ask, I want to just do the same job you are doing. I want to start doing this.
Yes.
I figured all the time, right? They're like, I want to make a change, right?
Yes, we do hear it. Because like to Cordelia's point, sometimes people think, oh, it's easy to talk about DE&I. Like I can talk about DE&I and, you know, come with a training or a meeting or something. And like Cordelia said, it's a road. Like you got there through certain steps. And so, you know, it's not as like
easy. Everything else. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. We make it look easy when we come with our smiles, but behind the scenes, we're like,
That is what red wine is for after 5 o'clock, right?
There we go.
Agreed.
Do you guys have a story, both of you? Do you have like a quick story of somebody that you really like maybe transformed or took them to the next level since you guys been doing this?
Yeah, I could think of, I think one thing that I'm very happy to see is if I am doing like a training and you can see like on Zoom or sometimes in person, you can see like the spark or the light in people's eyes, and afterwards with them saying, you know, I really am ready to make a change, or I'm going to go home and talk to my children about what you just said. And that right there is such a wonderful story, because if you tell your children, that's creating the next generation that's going to understand DE&I and why it's important, and why we're doing the work that we're doing. So I love to hear people saying they're going to take what they've heard and actually do something with it. Because we don't talk just to talk, right? We do want people to make that change. So I love hearing those stories.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's like one of the coolest things to think about, is like the next generation and the next generation. And like, again, it's a little bit intangible, but that feeling of like knowing there's some tiny touch that you maybe had is the best feeling ever. I think on my end, a story, of someone that I've impacted, or, has been impacted from this work. She started at our organization probably, less than 2 years ago, was having a little bit of a hard time, understanding all the different intricacies of being in the staffing world, and, recruiting can be crazy and all of that. And, I asked her if she wanted to, be a co-leader of one of our impact groups. And, she wasn't necessarily ready. She wasn't necessarily like performing, right? But, anecdotally, now it's a story of massive success, because it really gave her the confidence that now, yes, she's leading one of our impact groups, but she's also received 2 promotions since leading this, because she gained this confidence and had somebody believe in her, that like now she was that much more confident when she was speaking to a candidate, or that much more confident when she was, pitching a candidate to a client. And also created a completely new network outside of, just the local office or team that she works with, where she was able to gain more mentorship, development, all of that. So that's the story that comes to mind on my end.
It's a great success story.
I love it. So the final question is, anything else you want to say out there? So we'll start with Cordelia. Anything out there you want to tell everybody about DEI or yourself or whatever, as we wrap things up?
I think I already said my recent favorite quote, but I'll just say it again, because it helps to think about this for whether you are in a DEI role or not. But thinking about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging as the hot sauce that you're sprinkling on every single part of the dish, rather than having it be, an appetizer or a side dish. Thinking about it that way has been really, really beneficial, and I think will help organizations continue to grow.
Love it. Victoria.
I guess I would say my favorite quote, since you're sharing a quote, and I love that, Cordelia, is be the change you wish to see in this world. So I would just leave with, it takes just one person. It doesn't have to take like a group to start, thinking about DEI. It just takes one. And I think that everybody should remember that if they want change, start with, looking at yourself.
So true. Johnny, final thoughts, my man.
We could talk for days on this. I absolutely love it. Ladies, thanks for taking time out to share your knowledge with us and our audience. What just drilled up the point home with me is 2 things really stood out. One, this is a journey that a company sets out on that doesn't have a stop sign or doesn't have an end point, and it's got to be thought of in that direction. And you don't really succeed unless you have someone like one of these ladies leading the charge and really taking ownership to it. And the other thing is I never realized, I never took time to think about, in the past, in old work cultures, it was all about visibility. It was all about being in the office and getting in front of executive management in a personal type of way. And you can't do that as easily now. So that does present new challenges that companies have to think about. So that kind of opened my eyes a little bit to areas I really hadn't thought about.
Yeah, so true. You know what? And I just got to tell you both, you guys are both superstars. Seriously. I mean, I got to give you a clap up for that.
Thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. You guys are making an impact. You really touched my life. Like I said, once you're connected with me and John, you're always friends for life here. But, keep up the great work. I mean, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. And next time you come on the show, I promise you guys will have a tag name. You know that, right?
Yes.
Well, hey, everybody, hey, have a great holidays. If we don't talk to you both, thank you again for coming on here and keep making that impact.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks,
Take care,
everybody.
everybody.
Talk to you
Bye-bye.
soon.